Hey everybody, another GMG review. Today we're taking a look at the Drukhari, the evil space elves. Well, maybe greedy, desperate, about to get their souls eaten by Slaanesh space elves. From Warhammer 40,000's lexicon that are getting a brand new battle force, the Real Space Raiders. To go along with their detachment called the Real Space Raiders. A new character in Lady Malice. This is no Cruella the Vile, if you guys remember Cruella the Vile. That's a whole ass miniature from the original launch of these guys. And a new Codex. And obviously, just caveat emptor, you can skip ahead, and I will happily link whatever he posts today. I am not a competitive expert on anything Warhammer 40,000, so when you watch these reviews, I will usually try and direct you to someone who is. This is my new best practice. In this case, you should probably go check out my friend Ridvan's Drukhari review, which I'm sure he's doing today, over at Scaredcast, because he is the Drukhari guy. He's Drukhari, the Drukhari of Drukhari, if you will. And I'm sure he's got a better breakdown of the competitive form of the Codex. I'm doing a more product-oriented one. What does Workshop do? What are they releasing? And how does it fit into you trying out this army? So obviously Battle Forces, I was a big fan of these. I'm glad they're back. I like the format for them. They're relatively affordable. So in the I guess it's now 10 years, 11 years since I've worked for Workshop. They've only gone up 100% in price. So they only cost about 200% of what they used to cost in Canadian dollars. They're about $130 when I left Workshop. So for a decade, considering how the world is moving on, I don't think that's too terrible. Considering the product offer inside them has gone up and basically doubled as well. This box set in its older form would have probably been a Raider, a box or two of the Warriors, and a box of jet bikes. So 20 Warriors, or Kabalite Warriors, which is what they're called now, a Raider, and a unit of 3 plastic jet bikes, I think was the offer for Dark Eldar Battle Forces back then. The original one, which I think was $85 back in 2001 when I started, 25 years ago. And this is at least double that, right? We're looking at 10, 25, 35, 40-ish miniatures. So yeah, 10, 20, 35, 36, 37. And you get a character. So you get an HQ choice, you get a Venom. And because this is the Real Space Raid, you get a mix of all of the different factions inside Commorragh, the different sort of like gangs, if you will, gangs of Commorragh. The Kabalites obviously are one, the Witches are another, which includes the Hellions here because they're part of the Witch Cult too. And then the Scourges, I'm pretty sure, are now part of the Coven, because they're like a weird stitched genetic manipulation. They get these wings stitched to them, which is the Haemonculus. Obviously, the Incubi are the enforcers of the Archons, who are the overall sort of like leaders, the Archons, Dracons, and the big witch leaders. So yeah, so a little bit from everything. So these being witch, these being Kabalite, I'm pretty sure they count as Coven, but they might not. They might just be their own thing. I don't know that much about the background for this factions like politicking anymore. And then of course we have Lady Malice. So yeah, straight 38 miniatures in here, not 37, because I can't count. And she has a couple different build options, different heads, but obviously is a single character profile in the Codex. And have a quick look here at the basics, right? So you have a couple swaps you can do for the heads. She can be on a stone, and then you have her with her veiled face or her katana from, like, she's Katana from Mortal Kombat, and she can have a veil or not. This is cool. I like it. I like it when they do the Mortal Kombat thing. It's not a huge swap because I think it's literally just a piece that goes over the face. Yeah, no, it's a face that goes over the face. So the face is a separate piece here on the frame, and you either use the veiled one or the unveiled one when you build her. With 2 different head options actually too. If you want to have her with sideburns or not with sideburns. Very cute. Very Mortal Kombat. I remember driving, and this is a short story long, I remember driving my sister crazy because I knew how to unlock Katana in Mortal Kombat, and then she did not like fighting against her because Katana was kind of busted in Mortal Kombat 2. All right, Drukhari, if you haven't seen one of these before, we're going to go through typically just the new unit profiles. I won't notice all of the changes. The ability to hold Warhammer 40,000 in your head at this point, with the sprawling amount of information across a gajillion data slates, it would require me to delete probably most of my childhood and the childhood of my children in order to memorize it all. So I cannot do that anymore. I basically just look at what's new and exciting, including the new factions, detachments. And that'll be the main focus. Love this old concept art. This is old John Blanche concept art, I'm pretty sure. It definitely looks John Blanchy. I'm not sure if it is for sure, but I know he was around when the concepts for these guys got done. And that's extremely cool if they use that in there. And then obviously the rest of it's kind of modern color art. Which, I don't know, man. I know who this is for. It's not for me. I think the fact that I grew up with a 40K style guide that wasn't so style guided, where it was like, we got a lot of cool artists. Why don't we put all this in the same book? And it was more like zine driven. Like you could have different art styles like this kind of button up against each other. This is kind of an outlier. The rest of it is all very much this like curated digital painting style of art. So I was just really happy to see that one kind of Blanchy piece in here. The rest of it, right, it's on that new format. And of course, we have no idea who the artists are because we don't do that anymore in these books. If I can see some old art that I can pick out, maybe I can call it the artist, but I think that John Blanche piece is the only one I noticed when I was in here. So then on to, of course, the color section. Not a lot of new models here, just the battle force. You do get the Kabalite agents, which are the various different little bits and pieces it looks like from the kill team, which is kind of cool. And then Lady Malice. We got the 3 different factions overviewed here. I do like that the Lords of the Iron Thorn are almost Harlequins. Like they're like bright and weird. And then we have the new Combat Patrol, which of course will go along with the Battle Force to make a pretty good sized army when you put these things together. So this is the Coven stuff that's basically missing from there. It's all Coven. So if you want to make a real space raid, this plus the Battle Force, it's going to have you covered because you're going to have all of the different things. You're going to have Haemonculus, who's going to give you the leadership ability. Actually, the only thing you'd be missing between these two things is a Witch HQ. So like Archite or Drakite, I think they're called. No, Succubus, or no, Succubus is the unit leader. Whatever the big, the equivalent of an Archon is for the witches. I can't remember the name of it. I'm just going to look it up. You're literally holding the Codex, Ash. People are screaming at the screen right now. It is Kabalite Warriors, Lithos Brax, Succubus. I guess it's just Succubus. Oh, it is Succubus because they were the unit leaders before. But there's, it's a Hecatrix now, and they call the character a Succubus. Weird. Okay, well, I guess that makes more sense. And so, yeah, this Combat Patrol is basically going to give you all that extra stuff. So you get your Taloses, you get your Chronos and a Talos, because you can build them both ways. You get a big fat unit of Rax, or 2 5-man units as it's played in here, and then you get your Haemonculus. So you've got all of the factions represented, minus a Succubus now. Paint guide, and of course this has a variation of the detachment rules from the detachment for the Coven stuff, where they're powered by pain, and you know, get angrier the more you hurt them, because they're Dark Eldar and they're cool with that weird stuff. All right, so let's look at the core army rule. Again, powered by pain. Pain abilities. All Drukhari have a pain ability tag with the word pain. Pain abilities only apply to the unit while it's empowered. If your army faction is Drukhari, you can empower units from your army with the pain abilities by spending pain tokens. And you gain them by the following things. You get a 1 at the start of your command phase, 1 pain token each time an enemy gets destroyed, and 1 every time they fail a battle shock test. Each time you gain a pain token, keep it to one side. This is your pain token pool. Each time you spend 1, reduce your pain token pool by the same amount. And then empowered through pain. Each pain ability will state that you can spend pain tokens to empower that unit. When you do so until the end of the phase, they're empowered and all the pain abilities take effect. So these are temporal things. And as you're stacking up pain tokens, they become like a resource that you can spend to get these temporary abilities. But they're only temporary. So if you want one in the shoot phase, you're not going to get it in the fight phase. So for instance, Drazar's got Master Blades. In the fight phase, when you select this model's unit to fight, you can spend a pain token to empower it. While it's empowered, each time a model in the unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to the wound roll. So he gets +1 to wound if he does it. Your Incubi can get devastating wounds when they attack infantry. The Kabalite Warriors can get sadistic raiders in your shooting or fight phase. You can pick and basically flex in between the two. Each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack, reroll wounds of 1. If a target's in range of the objective markers, you can roll all your wound rolls instead. So they're like the greedy space pirates. And then your succubus, for example, has lithe agility. In your movement phase, when you select this model's unit to advance, or in your charge phase, before you make a charge roll, you can spend a pain token to empower them, and you can reroll advance and charge rolls to get super fast. Witches get acrobatic gladiators, where you can charge if you fell back or ran during the course of the turn, or advanced or fell back. And that's it. So that's the core army rule. Obviously, pain tokens, pain token management is going to be a big part of knowing when those things trigger. So there is a little bit of like overhead mental math and upkeep that you need to do to play the army, because you're going to have to keep track of like when any of these three things take effect. So you get one start of the turn, that's easy. But the other ones you got to remember if they fail battle shock test, or if someone's destroyed. All right, detachments, we're into these. There's 6, as is kind of standard tradition for these codexes. Each one's kind of tied to it. The Real Space Raiders is the army altogether, all 3 factions. Sky Splinter Assault is the vehicle one. Spectacle of Spite is the witches. The Covenite Coterie, obviously, is the Haemonculus one. The Kabalite Cartel is all the Kabalite warriors, and that's it. Is it 6? Wait, did I miscount? Real Space Raiders, 2, 3, 4. I think it's only 5. I'm just an idiot. Yeah, it's 5. It's usually 6. They do this to me every time. Real Space Raiders. So this one, it rewards you for having additional pain tokens for what you include in your army. So at the start of the game, you gain 2 pain tokens for all of the following combinations that you have. So 1 or more Archon models and a unit of Kabalite warriors. So you'd get 2 pain tokens just for building out of this battle force. 1 or more Succubus models with 1 or more Witch units. That would be 2 more for 6. And then 1 or more Haemonculus models, 1 or more Racks. If you had the comp patrol, that would be then a grand total of 6 that you get at the start of the turn. So 7 pain tokens. And that means you've got a lot of abilities and boosts. They're almost like command points. And because a lot of the abilities are pretty generic, like Drasar's reroll 1s to, or +1 to wound. The Kabalite Warriors get to reroll wound rolls. You can really lean into these if you want by min-maxing sort of or taking bulked out units that you've reinforced and then, you know, just including these models in your army in order to get them quickly. All right, enhancements. You get 3 of them. Dark Vitality for Drukhari only. The bear's unit's always empowered. That's kind of cool. So it's like a permanent, free, always empowered ability. Labyrinthine Cunning, spend a pain token to gain a CP, and roll a d6 on a 4+, gain a CP. It's an Archon model only, it's sort of your command phase if you're on the battlefield. So either trade in your pain tokens for CPs, or just roll a die for 1. Eye of Sight, this one's for the Succubus, and then Lost is obviously for Haemonculus. Improve the attacks and arm penetration of your weapons by 1. Each time the bear's unit is selected to fight, you can spend a pain token. If you do, until the end of the phase, improve your AP of your melee weapons by 2. And that's not an empower ability. It's just spend a pain token. So it means you can't double down. So the way that's worded, it means spend a pain token. So not empowered. So it's not when you're empowered. It doesn't add this additional ability to your empowering. It's just spend a pain token out of your pool and they get this additional ability. And then the Crucible of Malediction. You get the Urian Rakarth item. Once we're battle in the shooting phase, the bear can use this enhancement. If it does spend a pain token, then each enemy unit within 12 of the bear must make a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from the test if you have a pain token. Each time the bear psyker fails it, each time a psyker unit fails the test, it suffers 3 mortal wounds because it's sucking your soul in, because it's the puzzle blocks from Hellraiser. Insensible to pain. So sorry, we've got 6 strats. 2 are worth 2 CPs though. The first one's insensible to pain, worth 2. It's in your opponent's shooting or fight phase. Just after they selected their targets, pick a Haemonculus Coven unit from your army. -1 damage. -1 of the damage characteristic of the attack. Fighting Shadows, Real Space Raiders. When your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase, after they select a target, this is for your Drukhari units from your army, excluding Haemonculus and Covens that were targeted. They're -1 to hit. So either -1 damage or -1 to hit, depending upon what the tag is. Instinctive Spite for 1 CP. At the start of your shooting or fight phase, up to 2 Drukhari battle line units from your army, or 1 Drukhari unit from your army. So either 2 battle lines, like you do 2 witches and I believe the Kabalites and witches are both battle line. Yep, Kabalites and witches, both battle line. You can spend a pain token until the end of the phase. Each time a model in the unit makes an attack that targets someone below half strength, add 1 to the hit roll. If you spend a pain token, add 1 to the wound roll too. So a CP gets you 1, a CP and a pain token gets you both. And then Dark Harvest, start of the fight phase, up to 2 Rax units from your army, or 1 other unit. Until the end of the phase, melee weapons get lethal hits. Eager for the Kill for 1 CP, at the start of your movement phase, up to 2 Witches units from your army, or 1 other Drukhari unit from your army, that have not been selected to move this phase. And then at the end of until the end of the phase, when they advance, they just move 6 instead of rolling. but does not add to the Reaver's matchless swiftness ability, so you can't stack it. And then finally for 2 CPs, Raid and Fade. I like it when these abilities rhyme. I don't know why it makes me happy. This one is target up to 2 Kabalite warriors or 1 any other Drukhari unit, excluding Scourges and aircraft because they're flyers. Make an move up to 6 inches. And then restrictions, you can't select units that are within engagement range of the enemy to do this, and they can't charge afterwards. So it basically means you can like pop out, shoot, pop back. Sky Splinter Assault, Reign of Cruelty. Range weapons equipped by models that have disembarked have ignore cover. And melee weapons equipped by models in that unit have melee weapons get land. So basically this is your like lightning strike. You're jumping out of raiders, you're attacking quickly before anybody can do anything, army. And yeah, and you get bonuses for getting your transports. I think this one's gonna be real popular because obviously this is a transport heavy army a lot of the time. And having like vehicles that can fight for relatively cheap hull down is an aspect of it. But don't ask me, ask Scary. Phantasmal Smoke is your first enhancement for Drukhari model while they're within 6 of a transport. Where the bearer's unit's within 6 of a transport. Models in the bearer's unit have the stealth ability, and each time a ranged attack targets the bearer's unit, models that in that unit have the cover ability. So basically, like you're like riding in on your transport in this like weird phantasmal smoke, and as long as you kind of hover around the transport, you gain that benefit. A Sadistic Fulcrum, Drukhari model only. Each time you spend a pain token to empower the bearer's unit, and you're gonna have less pain tokens in this one, obviously, because you don't get all those bonus ones. In the shooting phase, select 1 friendly Drukhari transport within 6 until the end of the phase. Each time that transport makes an attack, you can reroll the hit roll. So what's cool about that is hop out, shoot with your Kabalites. The transport within 6 gets to reroll if you've empowered their shooting. And obviously, if you're shooting something on objective, you're going to maybe empower them to reroll the wound roll because your guns aren't that strong. Spiteful Raider. Each time the bearer's unit destroys an enemy unit in the fight phase, if they're on an objective, get a pain token. Additional pain token, because you already get one for destroying something. And then Nightmare Shroud. Each time the bearer's unit disembarks from a transport until the end of the turn, enemy units can't fire Overwatch to shoot the bearer's unit. So no firing back, you're just too fast. Again, because of the way Kabalites interact with objectives and all of like the stacking you can do on this to gain bonuses, I do think this one's gonna be kind of cool and popular. But that's just my gut instinct. I have no data to back that up. I just know that in 40k you stand on circles a lot, and there's units in this army that are really good at getting out of vehicles and doing that. Vicious Blades for 1 CP. In the fight phase, just after Drukhari, get out of the transport and select a target. Target the transport. After your transport's fought, select 1 enemy unit that was the target of 1 or more of those attacks, and roll a d6 for each model embarked in your transport, adding 1 to the result if the embarked model is a rack model. For each 5+, the enemy unit suffers a mortal wound, because basically you're like flying over something. Or sorry. It's like crashing into something. Because the Drukhari, I remember this being fun last time because they're covered in blades. I remember their melee abilities were actually not terrible, which I thought was really interesting and neat. Raiders. Yeah, that's funny. So they get 4+ attacks in melee. D3 plus 3 attacks, strength 6, minus 1 AP, 1 damage. So that's neat that you can charge them into combat, and then if you have racks on board, they just do mortal wounds. So actually, sorry, anybody does mortal wounds on a 5, the racks do it on a 4. Wraith-like Retreat for 1 CP. 1 in the fight phase. Target 1 Drukhari infantry unit from your army that fought this phase. The effect is you can make a normal or fallback move, but unless it's a witch's unit, they must move wholly within 3 horizontally and 5 vertically of a transport unit. And must embark within that transport at the end of the move. So basically you're like pulling back for a CP. Pounce on the Prey for 1 CP. And again, sorry, these are all 1. When your movement phase, just after a Drukhari infantry unit from your army disembarks from a transport that made a normal move, pick that infantry unit and they're eligible to declare a charge. So no matter the movement. A Skyborn Annihilation for a CP in your shooting phase. 1 Drukhari unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot that phase and that's disembarked from a transport. Until the end of the phase, range weapons equipped with the models have sustained hits 1. Or 2, if units Kabalite Warriors are Hand of the Archon. So you're like, all of your good Kabalite Warriors and regular Kabalite Warriors are going to have like a bonus of extra hits on crits. Swooping Mockery. When your opponent's movement phase, just after a unit has made a normal advance or fall back, pick a Drukhari transport within 9. They can make a normal move up to 6 because they follow you. And then Night Shield. When your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit selected its targets, target a Drukhari vehicle unit from your army that was selected as the target of 1 or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Until the end of the phase, models in your unit have a 4+ invul. So you can buy a CP down for a 4+ invul. Interesting. I wonder if, I don't think any of the big Forge World stuff's legal anymore, but that big crazy Forge World Jabba's sail barge would have probably loved that. All right, so next one up, Spectral Despite. This is all the witches. Witches get stitches. Combat drugs. So this is, you're not getting access to them outside of this detachment, I don't think, anymore. Just powered by pain. At the start of your command phase, select which combat drugs will be active for your whole army until the start of the next command phase. To do so, either select 1 from the list below, or get 2 by randomly rolling d6s. When doing so, randomly, combat drugs that you've previously selected can become active again, but you randomly select one that is already active for your army. It has no additional effect. Adrenalite. Add 1 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons equipped by Witch Cult models. Hypex, add 2 to your move. Serpentine, improve your weapon skill by 1. Painbringer, add 1 to the toughness of Witch Cults. Grave Lotus, add 1 to the strength of Witch Cults. And then there's Splinter Mind, improve the leadership characteristic of cult models in your army by 1, and improve the ballistic skill character of ranged weapons equipped by Witch Cult models in your army by 1. So, yeah, better shooting and better leadership. So we got some enhancements. Obviously, this is gonna be drug related because they're all on drugs. Pharmacopex is your first one. These are all for the Succubus, so that 4 wound, like, light character. Start your command phase. After selecting a combat drugs unit for your army, roll a d6 and add that one to the unit and the character. And if it's a duplicate, though, no effect. Chrono Shard. Once per battle, you can fight first. Periaptive Torments. Succubus model only. Enemy units cannot fire Overwatch at you and your unit. Morgana's Curse. Improve the AP and damage of your melee weapons by 1. So you get damage 2 on that sweet little sword. Then we've got 2 2CP strats and 4 1CP ones. We got Berserk Fugue, it's Fight on Death. Deadly Debut. This one's 1. It's after you charge, you get lethal hits, and your AP goes up by 1 if it's witches. Feigned Weakness. After you fall back, you can still shoot and charge. Preternatural Agility. Until the end of the phase, pick a Witch Cult unit at the start of your movement or charge phase. Until the end of the phase, each time you make a normal, advance, or charge move, you can ignore all the modifiers to it. So, like, you know, any kind of like reduction to those ranges. A challenge met. This one's for 2. When someone moves nearby at the end of the movement phase, pick a Witch Cult unit from your army, and you can charge as if it was the charge phase. Now, this isn't the movement phase, though. And you're making a charge as if it was the charge phase. The effect is select 1 enemy unit within 9 of that unit that was either set up or moved, and then charge against it. You have to charge that unit. Now, I don't know if this is a wording thing, or if there's no designer note on it. I do really wonder if they're gonna have some people question, like, if you could Overwatch against them, because it's not the charge phase, and I think Overwatch is selected in the charge phase, not when someone charges you. So there could be some timing issues in there if they don't clarify it. Correct me in the comments, though. That might be covered just under the stratagem itself. It might say, it might not be timed to the charge phase. It might be just when someone declares a charge against you. But sometimes they run into inconsistencies because the thing is so phase stratified, right? When hows, because it doesn't actually say, because it happens in the movement phase, it might like make you somehow immune to those abilities. And then Acrobatic Display for 1 CP. I get a 5+ invul when someone's shooting at you, as long as they select a Witch Cult unit as a target. So yeah, all them witches. I mean, it's witches, right? You're gonna have a cool 4+ invul save because you're so dodgy, and you're gonna be glass cannons otherwise, but you got a lot of move and charge. I think they would be a fun finesse army, but obviously, once again, don't quote me because I'm not a 40k guy. The Covenite Coterie. This is your Haemonculus Coven formation and detachment. If you are a Haemonculus Coven unit and you're targeted by an attack that's higher than your toughness and strength, then it's -1 from the wound roll. So basically, you're never wounded on better than 3+. All these enhancements go on a Haemonculus. You've got Master Regenicist, up your Fleshcraft ability up to D3+3 instead of +1. Master Nemesine, your weapons gain Anti-Beast 2+, Anti-Monster 4+. Master Artisan, add 1 of the bearer's wound characteristic and add 1 to the toughness of its unit, basically, models in the bearer's unit. So like your racks become +1 toughness. And then Master Repugnomancer. Haemonculus only add 3 to the range of the bearer's Fear Incarnate ability. So you're just an even better pinhead. And each time a friendly Drukhari unit from within 9 inches fails a battle shock test or is destroyed on a 4+, get a pain token. Because you don't care where the pain comes from, because you're a big old weirdo. And then we got 6 strats once again, only 1 worth 2 this time in the Distillers of Fear. You got Post-Mortality. Basically, when a Haemonculus unit from your army was destroyed, you can spend 1 to 3 pain tokens and bring them back to life with 1 to 3 wounds remaining, depending upon how many pain tokens you used. It's once per battle, but it does mean that all of your Haemonculus can die twice, as long as you have pain tokens. Symphony of Suffering for 1 CP. Fight phase, just after a Drukhari unit from your enemy destroys an enemy unit. If each enemy unit within 9 inches invisible of your unit must make a battle shock test, they're -1 if it's a Haemonculus Coven's unit. So you do such terrible things to them that they all freak out. It's like an exploding Haemonculus test bomb, or sorry, a battle shock test bomb when one of your units destroys another unit. Poisoner's Art. In the fight phase, just after a Haemonculus Coven's unit from your enemy's fought, pick a Coven's unit and select 1 enemy unit, excluding vehicles, hit by 1 more attacks. They get poisoned. So at the start of each command phase, yours and your opponents, on a 4+, they take D3 mortal wounds. You can't poison vehicles, but anything else, as long as you wounded them, you get poisoned for the rest of the game, and there's no cure. And remember, all those failed battle shock tests that this detachment causes gain you pain tokens too. This is your 2 CP1 Distillers of Fear. In the fight phase, pick a Haemonculus Coven unit that hasn't fought yet, and until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack that targets an enemy unit that's battle shocked, the attack has the Devastating Wounds ability. So again, Symphony of Suffering, boom, and then you can get Devastating Wounds with maybe the next unit to fight for 2 CPs. Connoisseurs of Pain, in your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase, just after they've selected its targets, pick a targeted unit and spend a pain token. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack is allocated to a model in your unit, worsen the AP by 1. At the end of the phase, if your unit's still in the battlefield, you get a pain token. So basically, like, they get all numbed out. They Novocaine it, right? They get all numbed out, and they, as long as they're alive, the Haemonculuses rejoice and give you a pain token. And then in Folding Nightmare, in your opponent's shooting phase, just after they've shot, pick a Coven unit that was selected as a target, and then roll a d6 and you creep forward. But you must make a move as close as possible to the close enemy unit. And when doing so, models can be moved into engagement range. So this is a cool one where like you basically spend a CP when something shoots you, and you can roll a d6 and maybe just end up in combat with it. So real hassle for shooting units when they're up close. This is a neat one. Again, lots of battle shocks, like opportunities to gain pain tokens, and then some neat ways to recycle your Haemonculuses by using those pain tokens, and just earning additional ways to power up your units. All right, then finally we got the crime bosses, the Kabalite Cartel. This is the one for all those Kabalite warriors and the Blades for Hire. So all of the Scourges, which I realized just now they're Blades for Hire, so they're not actually like I think they pay the Haemonculuses to like graft the wings to them, but they're still like just mercenaries. It's like their version of jump packs. And the whatchamacallit, Incubi and the Elite Kabalites, whatever they're called, the Agents of the Archon. So you're going to have a murderous agenda. So basically you're going to issue a contract, and at the start of your command phase, if your contract unit's destroyed, you get 3 pain tokens. You also get additional bonuses and penalties based on who the contract is and who's attacking them. So it's usually Cabal or Blades of the Archon, or Blades for Hire units that will get these bonuses. So like your Witches won't, your Haemonculus Coven, or your Coven's guys won't. Just the Cabal and Blades of the Hire units will like have a better, easier time hunting down who your contract is. So it can be a character, and if you're attacking the character, you get precision. It could be infantry or mounted units that don't have characters, or so that aren't that contain only, excluding units that only contain characters. And so your command phase, it's completed if all of them are destroyed. The ability is each time a Cabal or Blades for Hire unit attacks them, you get sustained hits 1, and then Show of Strength, pick a monster or vehicle unit, and you get lethal hits against them. So these are your like options basically to put down as a contract, and then all of the enhancements are for Archons. Leech Bite Plate, it's a 3+ save, and you can spend a pay token to get all your wounds back. Now, you've only got 4 wounds, so it's not a huge amount of like wounds to get back, but when you have a Shadow Field, it can be very, very handy to get your wounds back, and also to have a 3+ armor save all of a sudden. Webway All, your unit can Deep Strike, you and your unit, and it's 0 CPs for a Rapid Ingress. Information Network, up to 3 Kabalite Warriors and Hand of the Archon units get the Infiltrator's ability. When it's like basically you just pick them. It's not you, it's just them. And then Towering Arrogance, Archon only. While the leader is, the Archon's leading a unit, improve the leadership and objective control characteristic of the models by 1. Then these have some of my favorite abilities, and they're all 1 CP. First one's Double Cross. If you're in melee with a Cabal or Blades for Hire unit, And then there's another Drukhari unit, excluding vehicles, also in melee. You can assign the hits for 1 CP to them. So if someone fights you and they attack your Blades for Hire Cabal unit, you have a sucker unit in there with you. So let's say Rax. You can spend a CP. They take mortal wounds equal to the damage that you would take instead. Taken alive, in the fight phase, pick a Drukhari unit from your army that has not been selected to fight yet. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. If you're attacking the contract, and if your contract unit was destroyed by those attacks, every unit in your opponent's army must make a battle shock test, and you can't gain more than 3 pay tokens from it though. So basically, taken alive means you're in your contract, you're in the fight phase, you're attacking them, but if you kill them in that round, everybody all of a sudden makes a battle shock test. Tailor toxins in your shooting or fight phase. 1 Cabal or Blades for Hire unit that hasn't shot or fight yet until the end of the phase. If you're attacking the contract unit, it's a 5+ for critical hits. Enemies without number. Your command phase, just after you complete a contract, pick your Archon Warlord, and then they can pick a new contract. Making a point in your shooting phase, pick a Kabalite or Hand of the Archon unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. Until the end of the phase, improve the Bliss skill or armor penetration characteristic of the ranged weapons by 1. And armor penetration. And then Deadly Deceivers. In your opponent's shooting phase, just after they select a target, 1 Cabal or Blade for Hire unit from your army that was selected as a target, you pick as the effect of this one. And then until the end of the phase, your unit can't be selected as a target of a ranged attack unless they're within 18. So you'd be like, nah, like you just like throw up the like silhouette, or you knock over the pile of tins and a coat that was actually you. So I like this one. I like the idea they're just contract killers, right? They're just gangsters, because Commorragh is just this like unholy nightmare of fighting. And we're in a data sheet. So again, once again, I'm not going to do like a deep dive into every single change. I'm just not going to notice. I'm not going to know. I'm going to focus mostly on the new things like Lady Malice, and then just kind of an overview of like some bits and pieces that I didn't go over yet. So like I said, the Archon, this is like our core one. He comes in that Battle Force too, which is great. But Lady Malice is sort of a souped up version, but there's a reason to take her. She's an extra wound for 1. She doesn't have a shadow field though. So no 2+ invulnerable save that fails when you roll a 1 and goes away the first time it's failed. And you can't reroll invulnerable saving throws for this bear. Lady Malice instead has a couple of very cool abilities. Like first of all, she has Feel No Pain. She can lead Hand of the Archon, Incubi, and Kabalite warriors. And she's equipped with the Lady's Blade, which has devastating wounds and hazardous. 6 attacks, 2+, strength 5, -3 damage. That's a bananas sword. And then Razor Fan, extra attacks. She gets an extra bonus, 6 attacks, 2+, strength 3, 1 damage, just like little ones. She's Katana from Mortal Kombat 2. And then she's the Archon of the Poison Tongue. In your shooting or fight phase, when you select this model's unit to shoot or fight, you can empower them. And if you do select one of the following abilities, either sustained hits 1 or lethal hits. Until the end of the phase, while the unit's empowered, weapons equipped by models in that unit have that selected ability. So, like, Sustain Hits 1 on that Lady's Blade is very cool. And then she's Precognizant. If your army includes this model, after players have deployed their army, select up to 3 Drukhari units from your army and redeploy them, and they can go in Strategic Reserve. And then finally, this is the ability. This is why she's 115 points. Mind Like a Steel Trap. Each time your opponent targets a unit from their army with a stratagem, if that unit's within 12 of this model, increase the cost of that use of stratagem by 1. So yeah, once she's in the thick of things, leading a unit, man, oh man, that or a 24-inch bubble basically, not turning off, but like CPs are not as plentiful as they were in previous editions. Doubling the CP cost of stratagems can be huge. And then making if some of them are 2, 3 CP strats, that is just amazing. That's an amazing ability. It's the reason to take her by itself. We got our Hand of the Archon, which I believe is the kill team unit, basically. They can get 7s. They become like the elite Kabalite warriors. We got Drazar and the Incubi, still being pretty awesome with their decapitating strikes and hunting down characters. Kabalite warriors, the Sadistic Raiders. In your shooting phase, if they're empowered, you can roll 1 rolls of 1, like I said earlier, and if they're on an objective, it's reroll everything. Our little Succubus. And the Witches, who are acrobatic gladiators. If they're empowered, they can declare a charge in a turn in which they advanced or fell back. So it's a lesser version of the detachment one, where they can shoot and charge. They can still just use pain points to be able to charge no matter what, which is nice. Got our Reavers, where they can boost. Hellions, such great models. I give them a better invulnerable save. Just give them a 4+ invulnerable save. Make them Witches. They would be amazing with a 4+ invul. Jet fighters still around. Again, I'm not going to notice the differences here. I did notice that Iran Rakarth has been gone for a while, and I wish that model was still him because it's a great miniature. But there's our Haemonculus and our Rax. He's in the combat patrol, obviously, along with these Talos and Kronos. Mandrakes that came out in Kill Team as well. The lovely Scourge models, which if you take the heavy weapons, are quite expensive. Raiders, Ravagers, and Venoms. Get one in that Battle Force. And then an ID guide. So altogether, the Battle Force plus the Real Space Raiders, not the Battle Force, the Combat Patrol plus the Real Space Raiders Battle Force, it's about 1,105 points altogether. And a decent selection, but it does really only make the Real Space Raiders one. Then we've got our Crusade rules, and surprise, surprise, guess what they're here to do? They're here to become the most powerful gangster of all. It's Gotham City. Commorragh is basically, well, it's not Gotham City. It's more like it's Arkham Asylum, and everybody's a pajama-wearing freak that wants to become the evilest bat of all, so that's what all of this is. It's a bit simpler than previous Crusade rules. Like, it's a lot simpler than, let's say, the Grey Knight one, where, like, you're drawing omens, and it's leading up to some big calamitous showdown. This one's more about gaining territories. It's almost like a mini Necromunda. So you have your territory table, you're going to roll for different territories, they're going to give you different abilities, like a weapon forge, for instance. At the start of a declared battle formation step, select one Drukhari unit from your Crusade army that can't be an epic hero. Until the end of the battle, one weapon equipped by one of your models in that unit has the weapon modification battle honor. So you just get to modify their weapons. A Shadow District, each time a rival lord makes an activity roll, you can subtract one from the result. So you're vying against rival lords who will control certain territories, and then doing your agendas, bring back people, be the greatest space pirate you can possibly be. You're trying to become a Lord of Commorragh. And then after each battle, your Ascendant Lord's rival may unleash their plus to undermine or thwart your ambitions. At the start of the update order of battle step, if your Ascendant Lord currently claims 3 or more territories, make one activity roll for every rival lord in order of your choosing. To do so, roll a d6 and consult the table below, adding 1 to the result if that rival lord's power is greater than your Ascendant Lord, and subtracting 1 if it's less. So on a 1 or less, it's ominous plotting, nothing really happens. But like, let's say on a 4, your districts get raided, you lose your acquisition point. And if you have 0, randomly select 1 territory you claim, and you lose that territory. And this rival lord automatically claims it. So you're setting up basically who owns all the territories, and you're slowly taking them over. And then, price of success, if your Ascendant Lord ever controls all 12 districts, they become the attention of Absdrubal Vect himself. Roll 1d6 and consult the following table. On a 1 or 2, suffer no rivals, you're dead. He just kills you. Agent of Vect, remove your Ascendant Lord from the order of battle, and on a 5-6, into the shadow, remove your Ascendant Lord from the order of battle. Basically, every single time, you just die. It doesn't matter what you roll, you die. Vect kills you. So if you get all 12, you just die. I think that's so funny. All of the results are the same. It's just what happens. Did you go off into the shadow? A last minute tip off comes in time to save your lord from Vect's closing talons. They flee to the underbelly, hoping one day to return for vengeance. Agent of Vect, your lord's skill and audacity have piqued his interest. You're forcibly recruited, and then suffer no rivals. He just kills you. But no matter what happens, you die. That's my favorite table ever in a 40k book, because it doesn't matter what result you actually roll. It's just for story. Then we get our usual requisitions and relics and stuff, cool things you can find, battle traits, and weapon mods. And then for tracking the territories, you get your badges for what you did. Then we get our points. Like I said, about 1,105 points in here, because you get the Archon, a Chron. If you're getting the Real Space Raiders with the Combat Patrol to do the Real Space Raiders like detachment, it's going to be roughly 1,100 points. Obviously, you can play this army a bunch of different ways, buying different boxes. All you're doing is you're gaining the value in GW bucks of the savings of those 2 boxes bundled together. But yeah, the Archon 80, you get a Kronos. I can't believe that thing's so cheap, 55, so 135. You get a Haemonculus, so 205. You get Hellions, so 300. You get Incubi, so 385. Kabalites, 400, 500. You get Reavers, so 570. Scourges with heavy weapons, 670, 690. A Talos, 770. And then 10 Racks, 880. And then Witches, 980. Sorry, 980. Where did I get 1,100 from? I must have done my math wrong the first time. What am I forgetting? Oh, no, I did Scourges. Did I do Hellions? I did Hellions, yeah. Yeah, there you go, 980. So 1,000 points, roughly 1,000 points. I got the Venom too, didn't I? At the bottom, 70 points, yeah. So it's about half an army, and you don't have any of the transports or tanks that are kind of like typical for this army, which would be the individual purchases you'd probably make. So there it is, the Drukhari Codex and the new units. I do think Lady Malice is gonna be real popular. Like I said, go check out the other reviews today by people like Scary over at Scaredcast. He is kind of he's the most Dark Eldar person I know, and therefore I would highly recommend, if you want to play this army competitively, listen to his thoughts on this new codex, because he's gonna have lots of them. But I like that you can, like, this is just, it's kind of pro forma now. You get a way to play all of the major factions inside a codex with the detachments. Each of them seems to give you a bunch of sort of like fun benefits for leaning into a certain model type. And my only thing with 40k right now is you get a lot of unit duplication when you're doing a detachment like that. Like a 2,000 point army is so much stuff. Like the fact that this is 1,000 points, like this plus that Comm Patrol, this is what, 38 miniatures? The Comm Patrol's another 51 miniatures overall. That's a huge army in like older editions of the game. So just to need double that when you start adding like vehicles and stuff, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of dudes. So yeah, so I do think that like what's interesting about this is the leaning into one faction. When you're playing like a 2001 army of like all racks or all, you know, taluses and homunculi, like you'd have your support stuff probably too. It's a lot of the same miniature over and over again. So while I appreciate they let you kind of lean into the factionality in all of these codexes, I do think that like eventually what do? Do you break the codex into all those factions? Like that seems like too much. But the Crusade rules in here are top form. The fact that the fact that if you win, you die. The only time they've ever done that before that I can remember is in the Orc and Goblin, roster for Mordheim. If a Goblin ever rolled the Henchman becomes a hero result called This Lad's Got Talent, the Orcs just broke his neck for being uppity, so he never got Goblin heroes. You only have an Orc heroes. If a Goblin showed up in the Orc tent being like, "Hey boss, I think we should do this," they would just snap his neck and walk away. So I like the fact that if your Lord wins in this one, you just die. Yeah, that's a good piece of writing. That made me smile. So there it is, Codex Drukhari, all the new Drukhari stuff. Thanks for workshopping this along. If you guys for watching, got more reviews today. Secret Passages, a old school like industry sort of like retrospective. And of course, we'll on the paint table tomorrow. Thanks, Alan Ash. Have a good day.